Keepers of the Cash. Gary B, the casual comic guy here, and I am joined with one of my all-time favorite guys here, Rob, Fat Stacks of Comics. Rob, how are you doing, sir?
Oh, it's another day, another bunch of comics to catalog.
Right? And, of course, our guest of honor this week, here to show us some of his favorite books, and
Your
we're
Honor?
here to judge him
Oh, wait.
completely and tell him that they're all just fine.
They're all just fine.
We have...
All right, guys, here's my
Taylor
books,
Winder.
and I'll see y'all later. All right, gotta go.
Right? So, Taylor, how the hell are you, buddy?
I'm fine.
Right? And we will say a quick hi to the audience, and then
your
Taylor,
pronoun now
we'll
is
let
it's?
you give yourself a quick introduction for the people who watch on the rewind. But first off, we have Las Cruces. How you doing this evening, sir?
Shocking.
We have Joe
First
from
comment.
Anaconda Comics. We have Trev. How you doing, Trev? Chop and Drop. Digger Jim. How you doing, Jim? All our usual suspects in the chat. We have Las Cruces saying it's fine. We have Cocaine Joe. How you doing, buddy? And the turnout is already starting. We have Silver Knight Kyle, who will be coming up as well. Psychedelic Comics, good evening. One Shot, how are you, sir? And so, Taylor.
Yeah.
Before we get going, you just passed 900 subs. You're on your road to 1,000.
Oh, I'm back down to right at 900 now.
Well, still, it's 900, right? So, guys, if you haven't subbed up Taylor,
blocking the sex bots.
Yeah.
His links are in the description below. Those of you watching on the rewind, please sub him up, as well as my co-host. And Taylor, before we start, a quick synopsis, who you are and what your channel is about, sir.
I do nothing but mystery boxes, and I'm positive about them. No, I used to do mystery boxes, and then I realized I don't care. So I pretty much review shit now. And every once in a while, I have cranky people on to talk about things. But it's mostly a review channel now. I do my Wednesday comic book reviews. I have a sporadic thing called Unboxing Match where I exchange mystery boxes with members of the community. It was fairly regular, but whatever. But yeah, mostly
and have great interviews in the process.
Yeah. And I've started to interview like creators and other folks on there as well. So I kind of took me a while to realize I wasn't doing what I enjoyed with the boxes and stuff, like the pure buying a box, unboxing a box, and getting mad about the box. It's not a great formula for happiness. And so I review comics that make me unhappy, and that's makes me much happier.
Well, Cranky is your brand, right?
It is, yeah. I feel like whatever. Cranky is I just
you've been on YouTube for how long now?
Oh God, don't remind me, buddy. A couple of years now, like 2 years at least, maybe
and
longer.
You finally got a background up.
Yeah, it's courtesy of my local comic shop, Red Hammer Gaming. They another Gary got sick of looking at my concrete wall.
Your prison walls, yeah.
The way I hear it, those Garys are good people.
Yeah, you heard wrong, but
there you go. Sub, you're 901 now.
Nice.
The for psychedelic, it's a. We're just fighting each other. I won't touch anything.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
For psychedelic, it's a whole line of products.
Oh, I bet. Yeah. So if you go to taylorwinder.com, I have a wide variety, and the 6.0 is on the CGC grading scale is fine. So
it's fine. It's part of the Taylor Winder comic book collection.
Yes.
Available only at taylorwinder.com.
It is. And
And before we get to your books, Taylor, plug your own book, which you have for sale before we start.
Yes, I made a book called Things I Made in My Underwear. It's available also on my website. I made a piece of art every day for a year, and I put it into a hardcover book. I don't have a copy near me, or I'd grab it. But
it's a pretty big tome. You could club.
Yeah, it's a 9x12 hardcover book. It's a beastie boy, and I'll sign it for anybody that asks, and or not sign it if you just want to flip it and put an acetate cover on it, and call it a variant. So that comment probably won't age well on the rewind, but it's relevant to this week. So
right, it's the hot topic this week.
Yes.
And Taylor's not about anything if it's not the hot topic.
He's often at the mall at the hot topic.
Yes,
right.
You can tell it's definitely his.
I'm all about fishnet stockings and spiky shoulder pads. Yes.
Black eyeliner.
Yeah, that too.
Right. Don't forget to color those nails.
I mean, the Sandman dropped like a week, and so that's all making a comeback, right? Now that all the goth stuff, it'll be coming back.
I think they're all emo now.
Yeah. Well.
It's a thin line. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So
A
Taylor,
thin line of eyeliner.
right? Let's get to some books, buddy. You're here to show some books and tell us about them, why they're important to you in your collection. I'm going to guess
so this
that
is going to be a little
Ant-Man
bit.
one's going to be in there somewhere. But anyway,
Maybe.
all right.
Well, we're going to start. Okay, so I'm a cheap son of a bitch, right? And I kind of always have been. And as a kid,
Frugal.
I know that too. I used to go to this local, mostly a cigarette shop, but they had a book shop, book rack. But stores used to have racks of magazines where you could page your things and stuff, and they had the boarded over nudie section and everything. But I would just go sit on the ground and read comics, and until they finally kicked me out. And the first one I remember reading didn't make a whole lot of sense to me because I had no idea what was going on before it. And it probably was not this exact issue, but it was from Crisis on Infinite Earths. So I picked up a random issue of Crisis on Infinite Earths, and that's kind of what started, from my memory, what I can remember is one of the first comics I read. And it still made it still doesn't make a lot of sense. This is 85, so I was 11 years old, 12 years old here. And
not a bad intro, right? In the comics.
I mean, great art, story. Yeah. But again, it's just and this is probably the weakest of the Crisis covers. It really is. But I just kind of grabbed one as a representation of it.
You do get points for showing a different Crisis cover because we all see the same one.
Which one did the death of
George the Superman holding Supergirl?
I debated, but I picked the crappier cover on purpose because I was like, you know what, that's not really what I would have grabbed back in the time. So, and Wolfman and Perez. I mean, Perez's art is like he's a master. It's a classic. But if you pick this up cold and trying to figure out what the hell's going on in DC, you're like, yeah. On the plus side, it's actually a Crisis event. And things happen, unlike the newest Dark Crisis, which is just Deadshot's kind of mad. So
it's Crisis adjacent.
Yeah. So
they're out of milk at my local coffee shop.
Yeah, I did not grab key books for anybody other. These are not keys. These are just books that I kind of dig for one reason or another. So,
but that's what it's supposed to be. So
and the next one,
right on target.
I have to add a little painter's tape to this because it's a sloppy mess. But so this next book, I'm a multifaceted nerd. And in high school, I thought I met some fellow nerds and we were going to play Dungeons and Dragons forever. And we never really did, right? We just kind of made characters. It's about as far as we got. We drew up maps and then I think we maybe had one adventure and it went poorly. But I did read this at the time. And it's not an accurate representation of anything that goes on in the Dungeons and Dragons game. It is a fun comic, though, and it's picked up heat because of that. There's a movie of what's his face, Star Trek, the new Captain Kirk, that's going to be coming out. But yeah, this is Advanced Dungeons and Dragons #1. This is the first appearance of Dungeons and Dragons in comics, which is
now. How long did that series run for?
It ran for a fair amount. I know at least 25, 30 issues, but and it's still going in some format in like IDW. And I think they've actually brought these characters back at some point, but it's actually like I've not reread this in a long time. But I mean, it's got art by Jan Dersema and written by Michael Fleischer. The story's probably not going to hold up, but I still like Dersema's art, and
Michael Fleischer is one of those unsung good writers.
Oh, if you're saying he's good, he's got to be god awful. Did you write a lot of Conan after this?
No, he did a lot of in all over the place. He was just he just filled in. He was one of those they could go to, and he could keep the story.
Yeah,
going.
He was a journeyman.
Another author started.
Yeah.
I mean, how many of us can relate to getting some friends and think we're going to start a campaign and never actually get there?
Now I'm actually part of a campaign. We never have the time to meet. So it's like we're stuck in the middle of some adventure because like it's been 2 months and everyone's camping and whatever. It's summer shit. So
right.
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
Well, so
not I can derail the story here on that story, but
Did you ever play it, Rob?
A little bit. My son though, he's in a club at school who does it, and actually it was funny. He was saying that as they were coming ready to break for summer, some of them live locally. They were continuing the campaign while some of them went away, and so suddenly they did something where like the DM just says, "Oh, you guys all got teleported away," and like this group's going on and continue on. And when they come back, they'll magically teleport back.
Well, it's sort of the theme with all of these books, because these all I've acquired these all in the past couple of years, because my initial comic collection is long gone, sold or destroyed by mold or whatever. And I started recollecting like a lot of folks during COVID, and I also started playing Dungeons and Dragons via Zoom and like other online stuff during COVID, just as something to do. There's only so many hours in a day you can masturbate and cry, so you got to figure out something.
Well, yeah, tissues are too expensive to buy now for that.
Exactly, there's toilet paper shortage, and I was running out of stocks. So
well, the Dungeons and Dragons for me, I never played it. I was like, man, I like playing game stuff, but I'm like, it seems like a lot of work to set stuff up just to play. I'm like,
I mean, that's why you don't be the dungeon master. You just have to be like a character, Gary, and then you just show up, and you can play your fantasy barbarian, and then the other guys do all the work, and you just have to hang out and drink usually, and this
roll dice,
yeah,
and then bitch about it,
and then bitch about how you had the bad results. And we have a house rule that if you roll a 1 on a D20, 20-sided die, 1 obviously is the lowest result. It means you fail whatever you're trying to do, but the house rule is if you fail on that roll, you have to drink a shot of Malort. Which,
wow, my son would be doomed.
Yeah,
it'd be curtains for him, huh?
Yeah, he critically fails a lot.
So do I. But I don't have either of you tried Malort?
No, intentionally not. But I was around it when you were tricking people into it.
Tricking. I said, "Here, have Malort." It wasn't much of a trick.
Dum Dum. Oh yeah, it's free booze. Okay.
Yeah, it's awful. I mean, it is.
We read the Wikipedia. Awful. We read the Wikipedia entry for Malort, and the company who makes the stuff straight up tells you it's awful.
Yeah, it is awful.
What is it? So I've never heard of this.
It's
so is
technically a liqueur. It's a Chicago thing, and it's from like this distillery called Jepson's. They make that and a really crappy bourbon. I think that's all they do. But like they're known for Malort. And it's a Chicago blue collar shot,
like old granddad bad,
worse.
Really,
old granddad's palatable compared to this shit. I mean, it just tastes like a skunked asshole.
Well, and, that's putting that on a whole lower level. Then
it is, and it's part of. There's also a thing called a Chicago handshake, which is like another. It's just a rite of passage in Chicago, and so it's like it's a shot of Malort and an old style, and so it's not great at all. I mean, it is honestly god awful. I've had shots that are purposely supposed to be bad, like cement mixers and all those, things you drink.
Right, all the kitschy ones.
And they're much better than Malort. Malort is just its own level of nasty.
I will steer clear.
Yeah. Well.
Number 3, sir.
All right. So this is just an example of a book that I've changed my mind on. When it first came out, I didn't care for it. And I grabbed it off the shelf. I was like, what the hell's going on? And this is, I can't remember what year it came out. This is not even the first printing of it, but it came out in, when the hell did this come out? Oh, 95. So when comics were taking a massive dump, in the 90s, some indie creators were making some quality stuff still. And I just didn't realize it. And this is probably not a book that anyone else is going to show on here. But this is Black Hole #1 by Charles Burns.
I have the collected edition of that.
That's the one you and I
were talking. Yes,
and if you're not, none of you are familiar with it, it kind of reminds me of Dan Clowes, who also did 8 Ball and a bunch of other stuff. The Ghost World movie, Dan Clowes did. But Charles Burns is one of those underground artists that never really got a lot of fame other than in the underground kind of community. And yeah. There's vaginas all throughout the book.
But the art in the book is gorgeous. And the story, if you're into dark and twisted, that's about as dark and twisted as
if you dig like the EC horror stuff and you dig just immaculately drawn stuff that's like short and kind of one and done, you'd probably dig this. It's not for everybody. And like I said, when I first read this, I wasn't ready for it. I mean, the vaginas I kind of got, but like the rest of it, I was like, I don't know. It's not what a comic book should be. It's not cheerful. It's not bright. It's not superheroes.
It's not pretty.
Yeah,
I mean, the art's gorgeous, but I mean, it's not a pretty.
Yeah, story. I mean, and this is all just very tightly drawn, black and white, creepiness. And it's a kitchen sink press book, and they're not around anymore. So, and yeah, like the first print goes for a fair amount of money. This is a third print that I picked up on the cheap because I'm a cheap bastard. But yeah, I mean, even the end pages of the book are just kind of gorgeous. And so yeah, it's one that like it kind of just symbolizes the fact that I don't always know what the fuck I'm talking about when I review books.
Violence,
like
sex, drugs.
Well, yeah, and
it's
like
all in there.
And at some point you need some distance and you need to come back and revisit some stuff. And I've got a newfound appreciation for it. I'd love to get a first printing of this at some point, but for now this is a placeholder that'll do. And then next, I was a nerd growing up. A lot of these, there's a theme, and like this actually doesn't have much to do with this comic as far as why I like this. And there's gonna be some in the stack that don't like this, but this is Macross #1.
Oh,
Yeah,
This is the first appearance of Robotech in comics in the U.S. And so if you're hunting for a Robotech issue #1, you're not going to find it because they started with issue #2 after this. And if you've never had a chance to watch the show, okay, you know how Power Rangers like took a Japanese show and just butchered the hell out of it and like did whatever they wanted with the plot? That's what Robotech is, but animated. They cut 3 different Japanese series up and chopped them and put them together, added some really crappy music that Min-Mei sings for like 45 times during the series, and just made a somewhat cohesive story. And but it's fantastic. It's like my brothers and I, we would just sit around and religiously watch it. And we didn't have cable, and these are all broadcast over the air, and they would just kind of broadcast them whenever. And so there was no order to you couldn't necessarily like watch it on Tuesday and know on Wednesday you're getting the next one.
Yeah, it was because they were on the UHF channels as the fill-in, and they just kind of had whatever they had. Yeah,
and so eventually I've watched the entire series. It does not necessarily stand up, but it's still fantastic, and in my memory.
And that one fluctuates back and forth on what it's going for, doesn't it? With the times?
I mean, I got this fairly cheap, and it's probably an 8.0, but like I got it for $18, no less than that, $15. I bought it on So there's always rumors of like they're gonna make a live action thing about it, and they're gonna do something. I think it's in licensing hell as far as that goes. So I think
they're gonna make a theme park about it. Oh wait, they did.
Nice. Yeah, it's also like I was on a trivia team. Like Lawrence University is in Appleton, Wisconsin University, and they had every year they have a trivia weekend where they have a weekend-long trivia competition. And back in the day, the internet existed, but it was not like what it was now. We would all grab our heavy desktop computers and bring them over to a friend's house and set them all up and try and answer the questions and try and figure it out. And try and call in and basically just spend 72 hours playing games and drinking and doing whatever. And our team name was Skull Squadron, which is the squadron name from Robotech. And so it's got some history. I like Robotech.
Now, did you stay with Robotech throughout your life since you started it young, or did you?
I know it's not one of those, and like I've not kept up with a lot of this, like because I tried picking up newer series and it just didn't do it for me. And I've tried picking up like the Comico run or Comico, however you say that company. They're the ones that took over this after like an issue or two. And is this actually Comico? Anyways, it does not hold up in print form, but it's still like it represents something that I really dug as a kid. And I would go watch the movie in a heartbeat if they were to make one, and then I'd probably give it a 6.0. So.
A lot of the things that were done back then, when people re-get the licenses, it seems like they don't understand the magic that made it special.
They try and the thing is like you take it, then you make it grim and gritty,
or you over militarize it. They did that. Like they did that. IDW did that with ROM. I love the first series of ROM by Bill Mantlo. So much fun, so great. And then IDW gets it and over militarized it. I'm like, well, there goes the space magic.
I mean, IDW tries that with every property they get. They tried it with like G.I. Joe. It's just what they do. It's like, now they're losing all their licenses.
If you're curious, Taylor, as an 8.0, it's about $120 book.
Well, there you go.
Graded raw right now. The raw books, they run in the upper end, towards the middle of the upper end, around 65 to 75
I got
bucks.
a pretty I got a good deal on it from Gary at Red Hammer Games.
There you go.
He just had a mix of stuff in there that I picked up. All right, the next one, hot spec book. Not really, but mild spec, and it's a show that it's another property that I'm afraid Marvel's going to mess up when they do something with it. But I dug Alpha Flight, and it's not. I also really liked X-Men, but when I started reading all these, I was reading classic X-Men. Because I like the Art Adams covers. Then I opened it up, and the interiors were not by Art Adams. I was like, "What is this? This is not the same." But I dug John Byrne on the title when he was drawing it, and then he switched over to this for a bit, and when did this come out? This is 1983. So yeah, this is kind of when I was first reading. I probably more likely read issues in the 30s and 30s to 50s. But this there was always conflict. They followed the Marvel formula that Chris Claremont set up, right? They had the longer narratives with struggling characters with a lot of internal conflict and teams that didn't really get along and then just had to work together to save the world.
Now, who's your favorite character in Alpha Flight?
It would probably be Box, which was like the guy trapped in a robot body.
I was going to guess Sasquatch, huh?
No. I like this. I also like Puck because his only superpower is he's a regular sized guy trapped in a small guy's body.
Right. Well, there's something every time there's a Canadian team, they got to give him a short guy, right?
Well, yes.
You got to have Wolverine.
Short, and if Burns drawing him, pretty darn hairy. So
right,
because it's Canada, you got to have the body hair to But yeah. Box, Jim Lee's first art for Marvel was on Alpha Flight, and I don't have that issue. I probably should grab it at some point. He didn't stay very long on there. He moved to other titles because.
Did you get that What If issue? What if Wolverine led Alpha Flight?
I have it somewhere in a stack. Yeah, I think I got it in a mystery box. But it's not they're going to do something in the MCU at some point or drop an Easter egg and But
and that's when my Marvel Age, which features the first preview appearance.
I've got that too, but I just like this cover better, and it was an easier one for me to grab. So
here you go. Shop is asking, was Box a transforming?
Yeah, kind of, and it was like they didn't even bother to make him cool transforming like the
he was
actual
a GoBot.
Transformers. They just kind of he's like, oh, microcircuitry, you can shift to whatever. So he's like Plastic Man, but a robot, and his the crappiest colors too, like light blue and shit brown. It was
wow, hard on the eyes, huh?
Probably hard to print and hard to show up well in newsprint too. It did not translate well on the interiors. but if you can pick, you can, other than this first issue and then 32 was hot or 23 was hot for a minute because it was the first Lady Deathstrike back when.
The 106 or something where North Star comes out.
That one's a little bit high too. But the rest of this run you can pick up for you can probably find them in 50-cent bins and stuff. It's dirt cheap, but it's a fun read.
And people that are Alpha Flight fans are diehard Alpha Flight fans. I have a guy here, and he's missing 2 issues out of the whole run.
Yeah. Well, plus what I liked is it was a female-led superhero team, almost immediately. This guy Guardian doesn't last too long. Spoilers.
Right.
So, it's GoBots. Those were awful. GoBots are. They were crappy toys and a crappy cartoon and a crappy comic book.
Hey, they were GoBots, mighty robots, mighty vehicles.
Yes,
GoBots.
Yeah, but when you're going shopping and you had no money as a kid, and your folks made oh, you could get the GoBots. They're just like Transformers. You knew they weren't.
They were better than the Transformers I had to make out of Legos because my mom wouldn't buy me Transformers.
It was basically a name brand knockoff.
Yeah.
GoBots were first, friend.
Were they really?
Yes.
Oh, so Transformers just did it better.
Yes.
Hasbro then took toys from different toy lines from Japan and adapted them.
That's the American way.
Right. Well,
Robotech,
I'm not saying there's anything
Hasbro.
wrong with it. We've
Yeah.
all seen that. You take one thing, you change it slightly, like put an acetate cover on it, and then
Yeah.
all of a sudden it becomes the
Exactly.
world's biggest thing.
Or
So
you
there's
make
nothing wrong
something,
with it.
or company makes something and another company steals it
Right.
and changes it up and gets much more successful with it, which is kind of what happened with this book. Look, I'm a master of fucking transitions.
Look at
Segues.
that.
We call them segues in the biz, buddy.
Yeah. This is Beat to Hell. I mean, it's got tape on it. It is
Have you ever
That is
seen
a
Great-
fantastic.
A lot of great
Low.
adventures are beat to hell, but that's what makes it great.
It's a low grade, not a hard on Rob knows. These are hard books to find. This one especially because this is my greatest adventures number 80. This is the first appearance of the Doom Patrol, and it is not a great cover. It's not even a great story, but I love the Doom Patrol. Like they came out this. For those that don't know, this came out like 6 to 8 months before X-Men, and it's got a wheelchair-bound leader, a bunch of misfits hated by society, all kind of in their teenage years with screwed up powers that have to save the world. I mean, it's the exact same formula as X-Men.
Some uncanny parallels, huh?
Yeah, uncanny something. I think a little bit of a inter company thievery perhaps, or whatever. But and like I think it's a fun DC show, and I loved Grant Morrison's run on Doom Patrol because he just made it goddamn wacky. He had like a living character name who was a city street, and but this is where it all began. This is one of the bigger spec books in this stack today, but like it's just kind of not a spec book. It's a book that's worth a fair amount even in this condition, but it's just kind of and I would happily I need to get a higher grade at this. This is my low grade placeholder because low grade is better than no grade. And
so if you're watching out there and you have a copy, it's a better condition.
Hit me up,
want
yes.
to wheel and deal.
Yeah.
Talk to Taylor.
And if you've never seen any of this run, like there's a lot of fantastic covers in here, a lot of wacky like stories in the book because they have like 2 or 3 stories in each of these, and robots and sci-fi and horror, and like if you're a big fan of like the 50s like Twilight Zone or Outer Limits or that kind of stuff, you'd probably dig these books. So
yeah, there's a lot of these books that were great multi stories in a book.
Yeah, DC had a ton of them.
That seems like a good title that would do good with like a 50, 60 setting.
Yeah. I mean, and they've tried, like Doom Patrol, obviously they've tried to reboot it a couple times, and very few writers get it right. You need to have the wackiness and not, but it's gotta be like the right wackiness. It's sort of like a humor comic. I think it's hard to get the right tone for some of these things.
Or even a parody comedy, like not everyone does a parody right.
Yeah,
it's a fine line.
Yeah, and I should have changed transitions up, but I was too lazy because we were talking about Transformers, and I do have Transformers #1, and Transformers is another show I religiously watched, and it's another I even like the movie with Orson Welles doing Unicron or Omicron. I'm not whatever the hell the character's name is.
Right,
Omicron, yeah, and.
No, Omicron's what's been keeping us busy for the last couple of years.
Oh yeah, yeah. Anyways, and I love the cover of #1. The Sienkiewicz cover, and that was intended to be a miniseries, right? So after and you could tell it kind of had no plan after that because it's got really wacky right after that. They introduced Circuit, they tried to tie it into Marvel, so they had Black Suit Spidey make an appearance, and they had. All the hero they invented that try and tie it into Marvel, and then that didn't stick. But this is one of my favorite covers of all damn time, and it's an Alan or Mark Bright cover, and I don't know if he's done other comic covers. I've not hunted, I've not really looked, but I just absolutely love this cover. And spoilers, they're not all dead, but
yeah. Even in Last Spot Standing, they're not all dead.
Yeah, and it's one of the douchier
Transformers. And that's a good grade, that 9.8 on that sucker, because that's a hard.
I mean, I bought this. I think when I got this book, I paid $45 for it. This is kind of, I lucked out when I started reacquiring some of these because I jumped on some of these before other people realized they really missed their childhood and they're hating their lives they're living now. So, I was fast to that party. But yeah, if you guys if anyone in the chat knows of other Mark Bright covers, let me know, because it's just a fantastic cover. And you get Shockwave and the story. Yeah. All right.
And again, kudos for showing a different cover than what we always are showing of that series.
Well, I've tried to mix it up a little bit. I mean, there's next ones you are going to get for the last 4 books from me.
I thought I recently ordered a copy of number 9, and now I can't. Now I'm trying to think whether I did or not.
First Beast,
number
the
9.
Dinobots.
Dinobots, yeah.
But I can't remember whether or not I ordered it or not. I know I haven't opened it recently.
Oh, thanks, Scott.
This
so
is
the next
danger.
We are getting into
Scott says most are MD Bright.
Yeah, I gotcha. So we're getting into some books that you're going to recognize. You probably have seen before.
All right, well, book number 8 then. Take us in.
All right, so I've got a thing for flawed heroes, and Marvel does this better of the mainstream big 2, other than say Doom Patrol. I think Marvel does flawed heroes a lot better than DC. Like DC's heroes tend to be, sure, my parents are dead, but I have $8 billion and some loose pearls wandering down the street. Marvel, the heroes can be seriously jacked up, even if they don't start that way, and it's not the intention of the creators. Like Moon Knight.
Ooh.
I traded for this one fairly recently. This is a newer.
I was going to say, because I knew you were on the hunt for that, but I didn't see you get it.
Yeah, I ended up making a trade where I traded the first appearance of Silk in a 1 in 10 and a couple other books with a community member for this one. And yeah, this is the first appearance. I'm assuming you guys know. And this is a character that is very hard to get right, too. It's just another. Not a lot of writers, I think, do it well. I think Warren Ellis did a great job, even though he's kind of a piece of shit human being. And I think Jeff Lemire did it right. And I think Jed McKay is doing it right. But there's been a lot of bad Moon Knight books, including Werewolf by Night 432. This is not a great read. And in this book, he is just a mercenary. This company gives a white suit and says, "Go fight the werewolf."
And Frenchie.
They didn't have the origin set up. They didn't figure out any of it. It was just kind of some dude that knew how to do hand-to-hand combat. And then they kind of figured it out as they went along. And I kind of like that, too. I kind of like that they're they mostly ignore everything that happens in this book in continuity. But it is a grail. It's just kind of the story, the origin, it's all changed since then. But this is the first appearance. So...
It is, and I have actually bought the Epic collection of the Werewolf by Nights and read through those, and they were fun. But anything, fun. It had its up, its downs.
Yeah, it's uneven, and they don't, and even for the most of that first half of the run, they don't really address the DID, the dissociative identity disorder, which is kind of his defining characteristic. They just make it look like, oh, today I'm going to be Jake Lockley, and I'm going to go find out information and drive my cab around, or now
he's got his mental Rolodex.
Yeah.
Ooh, this personality.
Plus, he's got the most ridiculous moon helicopters you've ever seen. Both versions are pretty stupid and awesome.
I was going to say, but they're fun, too.
They are fun.
Moon copter?
Yeah. Have you not read any Moon Knight, Rob?
Never, ever.
Oh, yeah, you're not missing.
I haven't even watched the show. I've never. No, I know he's what we've talked about when we did the sidekicks. Yeah. That's what I know.
Yeah, right. They fixed it a little bit, made it look kind of cool. But the second iteration was literally a vertical crescent moon with a helicopter blade on the top. It was really stupid looking, and not aerodynamically sound. Eventually, they shifted the crescent moon and made it on the side, and so it at least looks like it could be in Star Wars, or whatever, or maybe Buck Rogers. But yeah.
Now, while we're talking Moon Knight, though, being a true fan of the character, who's your favorite Moon Knight artist?
Favorite artist? I like Smallwood. Greg Smallwood's art. I
clip that.
Yeah.
He likes Smallwood.
There you go. Yes, you can hold me to that. No, but I do think Capuccio on the current run is doing a pretty decent job. So Moon Knight's got, but okay, if we're talking interior art, if we're talking covers, Sienkiewicz is untouchable in that realm. Sienkiewicz's Moon Knight covers are just out of this goddamn world. And they're kind of where I first fell in love with Sienkiewicz, and I probably could have grabbed one of those instead. But because that's where they sort of started letting him play around. His interior stuff, yeah, I like his Moon Knight interiors better, or his New Mutants interiors better. I think that's where he really started finding his own as an interior artist. But yeah, Sienkiewicz's covers are out of this world. So
Well, and Warlock was a character he was born to draw.
yeah, yeah. Or Kingpin, if you've ever read the Elektra stuff, because he draws a giant looking Kingpin.
Oh, Kingpin.
Yes.
I thought you said King Pig.
Yes. Oh, but no, that would be a good character actually.
In
number
Marvel
9,
Tales, yeah.
Hashtag King Pig. All right, so these next couple, yeah. Well, my folks didn't have a ton of money growing up either, and so we didn't go see movies a whole lot or anything like that. And when we did, there were occasions. It's kind of like we got to go see a movie, and this one you might this is the repeat for some people. And this is a special book for a couple reasons. But yeah, it's the first movie I remember seeing in the theater. It was a drive-in theater, and so it was a double feature, Gary. The first was this one movie, and then after the lights went out and my brothers fell, after the lights went out, after the sun went down. Jesus Christ, I'm an idiot. The second movie was Conan the Barbarian.
Ooh.
So my intro to seeing movies out in public was first Star Wars and then Conan the Barbarian. And I don't know if there's a better 1-2 punch.
Wow.
And this is a book I won from that Spider-Man booth. And this was back when
I remember that.
They were doing their YouTube shows all the time, and I won this on a Monday. And the way it worked is you basically just had to have order numbers, and if the order number got picked, you won a prize. And this was early-ish in that when he started doing this, and it was Star Wars Day on a Monday. He had 5 copies in various ungraded to graded, and the last prize of the day was this one. And I ordered one thing that day. I ordered a $25 mystery box. And yeah, this is a quadruple signed. So it's got Stan, it's got Howard Chaykin, Tom Palmer, and Roy Thomas have all signed this book.
Oh my God. What a book.
Yeah, I'm not an enormous signature collector. And I mean, ideally, I would love to have a Stan Lee book he actually worked on that he signed, because he didn't really, didn't have anything to do with this book. And I'd like to have a Kirby book at some point, but I don't care a ton about a lot of signatures. I mean, there's artists I like, and I have a few that are in my possession that I'm not going to get rid of, but I don't purposely go hunting down. Now, that said, this book is you'd be hard-pressed to get this out of my collection.
Right. And to have Stanley and Roy Thomas on it together is just huge. And Howard Chaykin's no slouch either.
I mean, I have another signed book that I'm willing to sell that everyone knows, the Venom, First Appearance of Venom. I don't care about that book. It's just not a character I gave a shit about, and I still don't give a shit about it. So, but this
right there with you.
But this is just because this just is wrapped up in so many memories for me, because it's my first introduction to a space opera, to a grand adventure.
On a metal speaker is Lucas intended.
Exactly, and you have to. I don't even think I sat still for the entire movie. I think a lot because you would just kids would all run amok at these things. And so
the first Star Wars is pretty dry when you're really young. There's some.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't see it. I didn't see it when it first came out. Because again, we were not. So it was a little bit later when it was probably second or third run of it when I saw it. But it was still.
Yes. Yeah, I think I saw mine in 79, 78.
Yeah, and so this is.
And it was double feature at the drive-in theater, but my double feature was Star Trek: The Motion Picture.
Yeah, and since both my brothers were with me. I think my sister might have been as well, and they were fairly young. I'm guessing it's probably 81 or so when I saw it. I don't know when did Conan the Barbarian come out? It was after that. So.
1982.
Also, it was 82. It had to be 82, and it might have been first run.
So 4 years later, yeah.
Yeah. So
because I saw Conan at the drive-in because they're always double features.
Yeah.
But you had my period wasn't bad. But my second movie was a little out of my range as a kid at the time, and that was Cheech and Chong Up in Smoke.
Well, to be fair, I mean, I saw violence and lights fights, and then I saw boobies and swords. So yeah.
Actually, I'm wrong on mine, guys. I'm sorry. It wasn't Star Trek: The Motion Picture and Star Wars. I remember it now. The second Second movie was Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Oh Jesus,
That was the double feature
that's
pairing.
like
So
a
it
double
was a
feature.
it's still a sci-fi
Yeah.
pairing is what they
Although
did.
Close Encounters is another one of those movies that as a kid you're like, I don't know.
Yeah,
Right.
well, by then you were probably
Yeah.
sleeping in the car.
Yeah.
You've
All right, so when I was 13, I was pretty badly burned, and I spent a couple months in the hospital. And everybody that came to visit would stop at the gift store downstairs and grab comic books. And this book came out before then, but this is just another one that is representative of the era and of the books that I read. And I still think it's one of the greatest runs of comics. And I probably at some point had 10 to 12 copies of every issue of this that came out in like late 86, early 87. This is earlier, but I don't care. I'm cheating. It's my story. I can tell it if I want to. And it just helped me pass the time and helped me like escape because like, I was bedridden and I couldn't, I had like 20 some surgeries done. I couldn't move. And so I could read comics, and that's about all the movement I could do. And yeah.
Oh, I should have seen this coming. Beta Ray
It's
Bill.
one of my favorite characters. Another flawed, sort of tragic Marvel character that doesn't like who he ends up becoming as Brady Ray Bill, which is kind of an interesting twist on it. Like, well, because this backstory is like, he's enhanced by his society to protect them, and he doesn't like the fact that he's an outcast from his own people and sent to and protect them, and then he has to fight Thor. And honestly, like if you've never read the Walt Simonson run of Thor, do yourself a favor. It is one of the best like 3-year runs on comics I think out there.
Where is
You
Walt's signature?
It's on the first page.
Oh, it's a
Yeah, which I also like because it's not jacking up the cover. So this is an older one, and it's before they So
You can't feel too bad for Beta Ray Bill though, guys. As far as comic book girlfriends go, he had Sif.
yeah, not at first though. So they had to give him a love interest down the line. But yeah, I mean, and also come on, just look at that. And it's a highly homaged cover, and in fact, Ruben Fire Off Authentics first exclusive cover homage that. You can find the video on my channel and Taylor Winder. Anyways, shameless plug. But yeah, I just dig it, and I still dig Simonson's art. I think he was a great draftsman, and he just had a great sense of like storytelling when he wrote these books and drew them, and he was doing all the heavy lifting on these. Like,
you would get, if you go get them signed, all you need to get on some of that run is you get Walt's signature, and you got the interior artist, the cover artist, the writer,
exactly
the whole kit and caboodle.
Yeah, so like this is the only signature you need on the book, other than maybe the letterer. But unless Justin Birch is watching this, nobody gives a shit about letterers. I'm kidding. I like letterers, but like the letterer's name does not make the cover either. So yeah, but yeah, first appearance of Beta Ray Bill and Scuttlebutt. His sentient ship gets called out on CBCS. So yeah, and
well, CGC just says first appearance of Beta Ray Bill, Nick Fury appearance.
Yeah, so this has Loki and Nick Fury appearance, and then Walt Simonson art and story begins. So this is the first issue. He like what a hell of a way to start your run on a comic too.
Right. And again, another very homage cover.
All right, yeah. So the last one, some of you might be able to get. Like, I have one left, right, and then the spec book. Right, Gary? Okay.
Yeah, so your storybook.
Your extended storybook.
Okay, this book is going to be important to me for a couple different reasons. A, it's one of my favorite comic books of all time. It's just kind of one of those titles that like really changed how I saw comics. I did not get it when it first came out. I got it collected at first because I was too late to it. But I bought the slipcover collected edition, and I just ate it up. It wasn't a hero book, but it had heroes in it, and it just treated them differently. And it was dark and gritty, and the art was fucking weird, and had one of my favorite now artists of all time that I didn't appreciate a whole lot back then. And it had this gothic sort of sensibility to it, and the covers were like nothing else I'd seen in comics. And I do think that the covers changed the run of comics in the way. So that's one of the reasons it's important. And also, this book is my technically second AOK I've ever received from the comic for me. The first was from Gary B. And, you sent me a box of stuff back when we were both kind of starting off. Like you sent me, you're like, Taylor will dig these books, and I still have them. They didn't quite make the cut just because this book.
No, I just
And
didn't
it's
like
also
that Catwoman book, so I made sure that was in there.
yeah, it was awesome. I appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
Eh,
But this book was given to me by a guy who was known in the community as Slotted Up. He's no longer really active on YouTube, and but he and I had a show for a bit that was a ton of fun called Rigged, where we'd have he did all the heavy lifting. He was doing everything, and that's kind of what I think would help burn him out and just made him so he had to step away. But it was a game show where he would have guests on and ask hard as hell questions, and then like at the end you had to risk it all and usually lose and piss off a lot of people in the comic community so when they got it wrong. But he was just a great guy, still a great guy. He and I still keep in touch via text and stuff now and again, and it's a reminder every time I look at this book that I need to reach back out to him and see how he's doing. But yeah, the book is Sandman #1, and I sold a 9.6 right before the show dropped and kept this one. And normally I it's not the way you collect, right? You're supposed to keep the higher grade and get rid of the lower grade. But the higher I don't necessarily give a shit about grades all the goddamn time. Like I care more about the sentimentality of what the book means to me. And this copy of this means a whole lot more to me than like the 9.6 would, So it's like, and it's because it's just like this is like it was a stupidly generous AOK. And it was just he knew I really dug the character, and he just got it out of the kindness of his heart, and like that's it's sort of when this community is great, it's really goddamn great. When it's not, it's C2E2 this weekend. But like
Jason always had a big heart.
He did, and like he's not the only one. It's just kind of like this book is just kind of a symbol for everybody, every good person I've met in this community, and like how this community has helped change in my life and everybody's life. I think that interacted and stuck with it in a mostly good way. There is some toxicity, there's some badness, but that's the same with everything in life. But I've made some real friends, and I've friends that are probably gonna last a lifetime unless you turn into dicks, y'all dicks. But seriously, I've met some very cool people. People I'm happy to call friends. People I look forward to hanging out with in situations like this. I, can't wait to meet in real life. Or I'm very glad I've met some in real life, and it's just kind of that's the other aspect of the book that like really means a lot to me. Is that because
right. It's unique.
Yeah, and with I think like you guys both started your channel or really got active in your channel during COVID, right? Too.
Right. Yep. Exactly.
Yeah, and I think it was just I'm not saying I like COVID. I'm not saying I want it back, but I'm saying I really enjoyed the community I found here during it, and I think that like a lot of us would not have met each other or like found each other without.
Right. Oh, that's the thing, right? There's always bad things that happen in life, but there's always a lot of good things that can come out of that too. Not everything's the most dire situation ever. And I think COVID really helped create the comic community that's here today.
Yeah. Plus, there's some still good things that happen out of it, like standing 6 feet away. Fuck yeah, get the fuck away from me.
Right.
But yeah, it's and I do think like not all of the McKean covers hold up and stuff. I mean, they just look dated. But I mean, like when you saw these books on the shelves, there was nothing else like them at the time.
Right.
I mean, this started Vertigo. I mean, this is pre-Vertigo, but like this led into Vertigo, and then there's a lot of copycats, a lot of bad copycats and stuff. But it's just kind of like it's just even still, it's just a creepy kind of like if you saw this on the shelves today, I think you'd probably grab it and be like, "What the hell is that?" Right. I don't think you can do that. And Sam Keith, interior art, he was definitely not made to draw Sandman. Like it was not a good fit. But I love Sam Keith's art, and I love like what he ended up doing after this, which is like the Max and all the other stuff. But yeah, so
now, have you checked out the show, and what are your initial thoughts?
I'm halfway through it. I'm not hating it. They've made some changes, and like which I think you have to do. I'm trying to be as objective or as like separate as much as possible the show from the comic, and I think the show's decent. I think you'd be hard pressed if you've read both and seen both. I think you're going to be hard pressed to find anybody that says the show's better. But as far as a Gaiman adaptation of his works, it's probably the best I've seen.
I'm going to start watching it this Friday, so I haven't dipped in yet.
Have you read the comic?
I have not.
Okay. Then start the show first and let me know, because I'm very curious to see what you thought of it. I know a lot of people that I've seen that have not read the comic love it, and I like it. But I know Rob has like touched on this before. I think it's hard to like separate sometimes. Like if you've read something or used something in one medium and then adapt it to a different one, like the first medium is probably usually going to be your favorite.
If you fell in love with it.
Yeah.
If it's like if I didn't see something, if I read it but I didn't care for it, but then I sit down and watch it,
Yeah,
I have a chance to fall in love with the show.
Yeah.
But if I fell in love with it, whatever format it was, everything else becomes a pale imitation, and then next thing you know, it's like Star Wars fan base just destroying.
I mean, there are parts I really like Jenna Coleman in it, who is a companion on Doctor Who, and she plays Joanna Constantine. So. And I like some of the other aspects of it. The production value is mostly pretty decent with it. You can still see some CG and stuff, but I don't care a shit. That doesn't bug me about it. I do think the main actor is good as the Sandman.
Morpheus.
Yeah, but I'm not to the point where I've met Death in the show yet, so I'm not. That'll be the big, probably deciding factor as far as how I judge the series, because that's the other big character in the series, and that's like one of the, when Gaiman introduced Death in the comics, it was like a weird, unexpected twist, because Death is like this kindly sister, and not like this evil thing. She's a comforting presence in the comic.
Oh.
And so it's nice. I mean, it's not necessarily the first time it's ever happened in any kind of writing.
Yeah, but he didn't stereotype it.
Yeah, but for a comic book where like everything else has been like, it was pretty much a gothic horror comic up until this point. And then when Death got introduced, it really shifted and became more of like a epic journey instead of and it sort of found its tone instead of just being a creative horror book. Yeah.
Now, did that send you down a Neil Gaiman road where you started picking up other books by him?
Yeah, except for the fact that like there was that one company, I can't even think of the name of them, but like the creators would throw their names in the cover, and they had nothing to do with the books. And like he had this like Mechanical Man book, and there was a comic that was garbage and stuff, and like and a lot of his other comics I didn't love, like 1602 for Marvel and stuff. Yeah. And the Spawn Angela book, I don't give a rat's ass about, like, because like right after Sandman, or right even during Sandman, he started doing other stuff, which I get. Get paid, man. Get paid while you can.
Right.
I like his prose better than his other comics that he's done for the most part. Like I like his novel American Gods. I like some of his other shorter novels and stuff too. But like, but yeah, his other comic stuff that he's done.
Books without pictures.
I know, it's weird, huh? So,
holy cow, that's tough.
And you were a fan of American Gods, right?
I like the book. The show is okay.
No, I meant the show. Sorry.
Yeah. The show is okay, but yeah. But Sandman. If you force me to sit down and pick a favorite comic of all time, it'd probably be Sandman. And it has its dips in the middle, and it has some lags in it. But for a 75 issue run, I think it held up its quality tremendously well.
Now, do you dip your toe into the Sandman universe stuff they have going on?
Yeah, I'm reading Tynan's Nightmare Country whatever that's out now, and that's actually not bad because it's not dealing with the Sandman. And some of the other stuff, all that Sandman universe is like what they're like it's Vertigo books. Most of them have nothing to do with Sandman. Like they had a John Constantine book that had nothing to do with anything else in there. It's just they label it under Sandman universe now for whatever reason. Instead of just calling it Vertigo, because
so a little misleading, huh?
Yeah, it's DC. They don't know what the hell they're doing with marketing. Like honestly, like that's which will lead me to the spec book, which will be bizarre since I just said that statement. But whatever. So, we could talk for a bit after this too, obviously. But here's my spec book, and it's a weird spec book, but I pick this up every time I can see it because you can find it for cheap, and I dig the character, and it's a DC book.
Ooh.
Teen Titans number 20. The first appearance of Crush.
Lobo's daughter.
Lobo's daughter, yeah. And you could find this in dollar bins. You could find it. I mean, if you pay more than $5 for it, you're probably overpaying. Because they did a mini series with her that actually was pretty decent. Crush and Lobo. But it's a fun character. It's a character with, father issues. I'm not gonna say daddy issues because that's creepy, but like father issues, and trying to set her own path. And I like it's a very interesting character. I think I underutilized.
A teenage girl who has issues with her father.
Yes, I know. Yeah, it's only there's a site for that called OnlyFans. But yeah.
Well, no, I was thinking that's just called everyday life. Thanks.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, well, now just wait till your daughter can be on OnlyFans, Rob. Too soon?
They're 18.
Oh, well then.
Thanks.
Yeah, no problem. Just to give you nightmares about that.
Going off to university, yeah.
Yeah, there's some nightmare fuel for you. But
that's why we just took them to get their piercings because we were all they're gonna do it as soon as they're out of the house. Otherwise, at least this way you can be there for it.
Yeah. So I mean, I could have picked a whole lot of other bigger books, but this is just a fun little character that I think like you can find this one.
Yeah.
And it's cheap, and that's kind of what I was like. All right, let's see. And I do know that like for whatever damn reason, most of the YouTube community is not big into DC books. And I get, like I just said, their marketing's a mess, and their way they promote stuff's a mess, and their continuity's a mess. But they can put out some fairly fun books. That's some fairly decent stuff. And yeah.
Right, and the Lowell character in Crush could work really good on the Max app, like Teen Titans and Doom Patrol and Peacemaker.
Yeah. I mean, if they ever. Like they had Lobo was on that Krypton show, I guess. I didn't really watch a lot of it. I heard it was not bad, but just never really got into it.
Well, I think it was on Sci-Fi Channel, and nobody really watches that anymore. So I think it just did one season,
1 or 2. I mean, it had Adam Strange on it too, but they didn't do that character very well either, from what I understand. So
I like Adam Strange, and I never watched it.
Yeah, so I like Adam Strange too. Adam Strange almost made the cut, but I wanted to pick some weirder books for today. Or weirder books that maybe the community wouldn't think I'd be bringing. How about that?
Right?
Yeah.
Adam Strange is a great character, though.
He is. Yeah. I mean, I have a place in my heart for all of the older, like the Silver Age DC weirdness. Adam Strange.
Etrigan.
What's that?
Etrigan.
I love Etrigan. Yeah, he's more brown.
I would love to see a movie of him.
If they did it right, I could see a Phantom Stranger series or Dead Man TV show. I think would be great. And
Gentleman Ghost.
The Inferior 5. No. They're not good. They're not good. DC had in the Brave and the Bold and Strange Adventures and stuff. They use these for breeding grounds for just dumping all their crappy character ideas. Like
they could do something cool with Challengers of the Unknown too.
They could. They tried to reboot that in 90s, and then didn't do early 2000s. It didn't do much, but they could. Or what's his Sea Patrol? Was that the one? I can't think of the name.
Oh, I know who you're talking about.
It's not that. It's yeah.
Huh.
I can't think of what the hell they're called, but but it's not that. But like that's a. Anyway, yeah, this is a.
I'm trying to remember it now.
Yeah. What's up? What's up, Nalman? Yeah, little. You can catch another rewind, but
yeah, Joe's saying it wasn't the Adam Strange we know and love on Krypton.
Yeah, it's kind of like a Tom King Adam Strange. That son of a bitch.
I got the 12 issues of the new one. I still have to sit down and read it. The Tom King one.
Just burn it.
Yeah.
Really, it's not good.
It's not Adam Strange.
If you want to read a book that is disjointed and jumps all over the place, and back and forth, so you can barely keep your head together as to what's going on, and then be thoroughly disappointed in how they trash a character that you like, then absolutely sit down and read it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, just skip it.
It's a deconstruction, Rob.
Because one of my favorite series with him was that 3-issue one they had put out. What was it? Late 80s, early 90s.
3 issues. But the 12-issue run could have been 3 issues. Could have been 1. They could have just said.
Yeah, honestly, it could have just been like, okay, Adam Strange has PTSD. And called it a day. But
Joe was agreeing with you too. He said it was
it was pretty awful. I like the art on it. I thought Mitch Gerards and I can't think of the other guy's name. They did a great job in the art. Doc Shaner. I
just really just like Tom King. Some of his stuff I like, but when he does these 12-issue series, and he's jumping around constantly in time, just like he did with the Batman, Catwoman. He's doing it here. He did it with the Doc Strange, where it's just, or Adam Strange. It's just bounces all over the place, and it's like, you know what? Especially if you're not reading it in a graphic novel or holding on to it all at once. If you're reading it one issue at a time each month, holy cow, is it difficult to freaking
it doesn't hold. He does not write for the monthly very well, or at least in that format. I've heard different things about other stuff he's done, and I actually liked his Vision maxi series, but I read it collected, and like I think if you read some of his stuff collected, it's fine. But I really did not like his Rorschach either that he did.
See, I loved his Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow.
I've heard good things about that. You liked it. I know what's his nuts did too, Legion Mark. So yeah.
The run was a boring Greek tragedy.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, good. At least some of you guys have.
Well, that's absolutely 0% good. I've heard about it, so I'm excited to dig in. So, and I was really looking forward to it after reading Supergirl. You know,
instead, just read the Crush and Lobo miniseries. It's much better, and I'm not kidding.
Nice. Well, yeah, those nice eclectic characters. I think that's what I liked. I was looking forward to seeing some different tastes from what you brought tonight.
Yeah.
Because that's the fun of the show, right? Seeing what's specific to each person.
Yeah, and a lot of what I brought is just me like things I dug as a kid, and I kind of did that on purpose. But I read a lot of the modern stuff, and I go through it so quickly, and a lot of it is so forgettable to me, which is sad, honestly.
Right.
Like you read all these new weeklies, and you're like 2 weeks later, like, did I read that? Was it okay? I have to go back and watch my own reviews to remember what I thought about the book. Like that's the sad thing.
Well, it's tough, right? Because I still get a bunch of books, but I find that every day I read a Bronze book. I go back and read Bronze Age books over the new stuff all the time.
Yeah. Well, and I think all of us have. Well, maybe not you, Gary. You've always been a pretty focused collector, which I have great respect for. But I know Rob's collecting has shifted, and so has mine. That like since the start of this mess, by this mess I just mean life. No, there's all like when COVID started, it was variant covers and like cool, shiny exclusives and all this stuff. And now it's like, I just want some cool old books. Like I just want, I would give me stuff that's 50 or 60 years old and I'll hunt it down. I'm like, yeah, I'll pay money for that. But like, I just tend to not give a rat's ass about like exclusive covers or any of that stuff anymore. The guy that runs my LCS, he's like, do you care what cover I throw in the box? I'm like, 99% of the time, no, I don't give a shit. Like, just give me one in decent shape, and if I really care, I'll swap it out when I'm there. He's like, all right, cool.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, and it's tough because you're a reader.
Yeah.
And I think now we all liked some variant covers, but it's the same problem that we had in the 90s where everything was a foil cover or a die cut or a gimmick cover, and it ended up hurting the industry. And I think now all the different store exclusives, especially since every person who has a website has their own exclusive now.
Yeah.
So it makes having a complete collection of something impossible.
Yeah.
And it makes it too expensive.
Well, and I do think that like, I mean, we're definitely in a dip, but I wouldn't be surprised if like, not necessarily a full on crash is coming, but I think a market correction, how about we do it that way, is gonna come down the line fairly soon. There's been a lot of disgruntled people, a lot of like people that realize none of this shit holds any value. I mean, if you don't collect what you want, collect how you want. I'm not saying that not to do that, but if you're buying books with the purpose of like having them be an investment, that's what everyone in the 90s did, and they all got their asses handed to them. And I think a lot of that's going to happen, and it does happen all the damn time with these variant covers.
Just ask everyone that has this Death of Superman book.
Well, that one's coming back though.
And but it's true though. But that's the problem is I think the focus needs to go back to storytelling, and right now that's what you're kind of getting with the indies and the big two. Got to get back to that, and they have certain writers that are good at it.
Yeah.
But they need to invest across all their characters more and get away from the big focus crossovers that have to contain every book they make.
Yeah, you're right. To get one shot never. It always ebbs and flows, but there's just such a glut of stuff out there right now that I don't think it's all going to last.
Oh,
Like,
yeah, look when you look at your app and you're looking at your inventory, logging your stuff, and you see a issue 1, and there's literally they have to double up and triple up the alphabet because they run out of letters
yeah,
oh, this is the ABZ cover because they freaking have 80 different variants.
yeah,
Right.
and that's just the mainstream. And then you add on like it's much. I think it's much easier for indie creators to make a book and discover now, which is great. But like, there's just so much out there, and like so many people are just throwing shit at the wall to see what sticks, and they're not.
There's even FOC variants now, which I didn't know was a thing till last year. And I'm like, oh, it's FOC variant. Okay.
Yeah, and then the 1 in 800 sketch variants, and then the
Right.
acetate on an old cover variant, and you know, like whatever. It's just it's collect them if you like them, but if you're collecting them, try and make thinking they're going to turn into money. That's when you really do need to take learn a lesson.
Yeah, that's when you're fooling yourself. Well,
Because,
especially because I see a lot of people buy the 1 in 50s and the 1 in 100s, and they hold value for like a month to 6 months at most. Then you see them start dipping down. The same with some of the store exclusives.
yeah.
You know,
I mean, every once in a while you get one that sticks, like the Jurkovic, whatever, Miles
Well,
Morales.
if it's an actual key,
Yeah,
turns out to be a legit key, not just the key,
Yeah.
the temporary key of the week. Like, here's the first appearance of
But yeah,
Punchline. Or
speaking of things, I don't think they're ruining the industry, but they're changing the industry. And Key Collector and whatnot and YouTube all have their parts to play in shifting how and why folk get books. And I don't necessarily think it's for the better. So,
well, you shouldn't expect any modern book to really realistically to hold any significant value for a long period of time.
no, I mean, and you're right. Read books, buy books because you like the story.
Yeah. I mean, if you're playing the commodities, the short-term commodities game, then great. You know that, and that's where I think it's different. There are people who do, and they're collecting.
Yeah,
they do it like short-term trading. So they are trying to buy that peak and flip and everything else, and
there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah,
but
if you're a collector, you should. It's difficult as a collector sometimes with all that noise going on out there to completely ignore it 100%. And that's where I know that, like, early on, especially sometimes with some of the variants and even, some of the ratios that like I grab still this day, sometimes are like, well, if that's the book that hits, sometimes I really like the cover and I don't give a shit, but
I mean, that's and that's the thing is, like, even with the indie books, I'm like, I'll buy a first issue just in case. You never know when the next Something to Kill the Children is coming.
right. I don't think I've ever bought a variant
of any book. Yeah,
sure. Red Sonja says no.
Right? Yeah, exactly. What's that?
How many variants do you get a week, Gary? Like 10? I'm guessing.
It depends. If it's Conan or Red Sonja, I do get a couple. I bought this week with the Predator. I bought one extra.
Yeah, I'm not sure, and I'm not even sure I'll pick up that book. We'll see.
Yeah, I just watched the movie Prey. I thought it was good. Not as great as everybody said it was. It was good, but
it's on my list after I finish Sandman.
I generally avoid all miniseries that are released about the same time as a movie or TV property is about to be released. It's just destined for short term.
This was supposed to come out before, but it got tied up for a little bit.
Yeah, and it has a cool looking cover. Again, I'll give you that. I just, I bought like a couple of covers. I'm not immune to it either, and I've fallen prey. Get it? Because Predator, Prey.
Yeah. Oh, I got
it. To it myself. Like, I bought a couple copies of that Alien when Marvel first took over Alien. I'm like, I'll get a couple copies of this. It's the first Marvel produced thing. It was fine. It was an okay story, but it's like that book is never going to go anywhere. Right. And I'm like, why?
No, I like the Alien. What they did, I like what Marvel's done with the Alien franchise, and I know a lot of people don't, but I truly enjoyed both those story arcs in those first issues. So I'm hoping that they do well with this.
I didn't think they were telling much of a new story with the first one, and that's when I dropped it. I was like, it seems same old to me. So, I think the problem too, like, I think the Predator is gonna be hard to write a good book about because, there've been so many shitty movies. I heard the new one's good, but like, it's like, how many times can you drop him into an environment and have him face off against one person? Like, I mean,
Right.
and have it not read the same as everything else. Like that's the, I don't know. So, but yeah, I don't know. If I had to, I would have other books on here that I would like to probably add to this at some point for the next 10-1-1. Like I need to get
Oh,
a first
don't worry, you'll
Voltron.
be back.
I need to get like a first Voltron. Just I don't have that one yet, but that's another. And again, there's a theme to all these. It's like 80s cartoons I ended up watching, which they're
all our
not
younger
necessarily good
years, right?
comics, but like I had a couple others I was gonna grab. I had a He-Man one and I had Thundercats. I was talking about bringing that, grabbing too. But I was like, all right, I'm gonna limit.
But do you have the Battle of the Planets?
I don't, but I never. It was not a series I watched or whatever a whole
Oh.
lot growing up, so it doesn't have that for me. I need to get a Buck Rogers because I watched that
Ooh.
show.
So did I.
Oh, you want like the modern Buck Rogers
Well,
comic?
I want both because I'm also Rob. I like men in short skirts, so yes. But and small wood, yeah, they clip both of that. But
There's a lot. There's especially if you just want a good one
yeah,
for some of the look and everything else, and an older one. There's a lot of reasonably priced Golden Age Australian imports
oh nice.
They reprint the dailies interior from the daily strips, and they're black and white, and they have really nice covers, and they're usually, you can get them in a solid mid-grade for anywhere from like $50 to $70.
Well, Scott, I just say things on a whim, so it's all good. We can always talk. And Kyle, hit me up on Instagram. We can chat. Empty thought balloon. We can figure out something. Let me know what you're looking for, and we can figure out.
I love the show Buck Rogers too, and Aaron Gray.
Yeah,
and
I mean,
the tightest pants in space.
Yeah, I mean, it is not a good show.
No.
But I didn't care as a kid. It's just kind of. There's a guy that looked like a bird and had a bird ship. What more?
I was just gonna bring him up too.
Yeah.
He was like so absurd.
Yeah. Also, like same with like Battlestar Galactica. Like that first show is not a good show.
No, but it's just
in my mind, it was awesome.
Yeah, and well, because
rose tinted
sort of
glasses.
Like, there's a lot of that for me in the childhood stuff. Like that, like there's I can't remember what the name of the TV series was, but there was a guy. There's a show where it's essentially a living computer who's like a blue spark that could turn into a car and a couple other things.
Automan.
Oh, geez. There you go. And I remember it being awesome. And I'm sure
Automan and Manimal. They came out around the same time. They both lasted less than a season.
I never watched Manimal. And like Greatest American Hero, I love that damn show.
Oh, so did I, and it's horrible.
Yeah, I know that's.
But I still love it.
Then you had of course, you had your Knight Rider, you had your Airwolf, but then there was one with a motorcycle. Was it Nighthawk or something? Or
yeah, there was Nighthawk. I mean, also, and then there's A-Team, but there's also Simon and Simon and
Airwolf.
I was more of a fall guy.
Oh yeah. I even watched The Equalizer back then, which is kind of boring, but
I loved The Equalizer as a kid too. I used to watch it.
But yeah, that's kind of like that's where my nostalgia. It all goes back to like that kind of crap, and like none of it's good, but it doesn't matter. It's just I enjoyed it so much then that it means something to me now. It's not so much that like objectively half of these comics in this pile are trash, but that they just bring up good memories. So that's kind of where
to this day. Probably several times a month, I'll still play the Greatest American Hero theme song.
It is a great theme song.
It's that embedded in me from childhood. Like I've never outgrown it.
Yeah, if modern era television needs to learn anything from 80s, is that you need to bring back a good theme song. Peacemaker got it right.
Right.
But like, you need a catchy theme song.
Believe it or not.
We're walking on air. Yeah.
Right.
And with that, Gary?
And with that, Rob, what is coming up on your channel this week, sir? Thank you for the segue. I was just going to do it myself, but you beat me to it.
Thursday I'll open up. I'm opening up Flo Dameron mystery boxes.
Nice.
And then Saturday will be this little thing we do, only slabs. Yeah.
Nice.
And who's the guest this week?
Yeah, I knew you were going to ask me that.
Old man.
Man Cave Comics.
Oh yeah, nice.
Yeah.
None
you
of
might have heard of him.
Nobody turn up on Saturday because I want to actually win something for once. God damn it!
Yeah, Man
You
Cave
never
will
won
make his.
on Slab Hub?
No, I've won on Slab Hub, but I've
Oh.
never won from Man Cave, and that's the big thing because he's that guy's stupidly generous too. So, yeah.
Yep. Yeah,
you're right. The
Cat
Prisoner is a great show, and Prisoner actually holds up as far as a weird trip he has.
Cat Fan was showing off today on Instagram. He got his book finally from Man Cave from last time. It was the Captain Midnight, 6.0 restored, but it was still great.
Well,
great
plus I need to get
book.
some new stickers too because mine are all outdated and bootleg.
Yeah,
now.
there's new stickers, new magnets, and new merch.
Yeah,
FatStacksMerch.com.
Dope Comics ruined me because now all night, because he said Sanford and Son, I'm going to be going.
Oh,
That's another one. As soon
well,
as
I've got
hear
the Greatest
it,
America
I'm
theme
thinking
song stuck in my head now,
constantly.
Gary, you son of a bitch. So,
Huh?
now I've got Believe It or Not. Yeah.
Whoever thought I could fly so.
Yeah, Jesus Christ.
I know, right? It's so good. All right,
it's-
so on my channel coming up this week, we have Lorenzo from Alternative City Comics on in the hot seat with the usual suspects this Thursday. On Saturday, we have Chai Comic Girl doing the Saturday edition of the
Nice.
1011. And then next Tuesday, we have Remy Q on the 1011. So
Nice.
a bunch of bangers in a row, guys. And then Eddie from the Batcave next Thursday. Plus, you'll have my normal Savage Saturday comic review this Saturday. And Taylor, what's coming up for you, sir?
Tonight in 45-ish minutes on Eddie's channel, Old Man Collectibles, there'll be Cranky Comic Chat. So if you want to come and talk about last weekend's C2E2 fiasco or whatever, please come. Otherwise, it's just Eddie and I bitching at each other for about 45 minutes until we can talk. Rob will be there too. I mean, well, you're technically not a host yet, so like, and I was giving you the out if you wanted it, Rob. So
chop liver treatment, Rob.
No, it's just that sometimes
you're there every week, Rob. But
I was giving Rob the out in case he didn't want to show up. But anyways, Rob will be there too, so you can see 2/3 of our smiling faces again tomorrow. Tomorrow's Wednesday already. New comic book review day at 8:30 Central Time. I drop my new comic book reviews. Thursday, what the hell am I doing? Either it'll be episode number 2 of Mike Makes Me Read Weird Stuff, or it'll be my review of the Sandman if I get that done in time. I'm not sure. And then coming up in the near future, I'm not scheduled yet, I'll have Hoarder's Hide on for unboxing match, and Flash by Night will also be on unboxing.
That could be a good unboxing match.
Yeah, it should be a fun one. He's sending me.
Now he'll have a Voltron in it.
Yeah, he's sending me 2 boxes. No, it's already been sent out, so he's got 2 boxes, and I'm looking forward to seeing what he got me. So.
Oh, you bastard! One shot. You had to do it.
See,
yeah,
that's the thing. Everybody remembers 80s theme songs because,
how about the Silver Spoons?
Oh, so many good ones.
So many not so good ones.
Although that actor can be a lot to be desired, but all
right, guys. Thank you all to the chat for coming out tonight. Great support. We had a lot of guests. Really active chat. Thank you all so much for coming out to support the show. Coming out to support Taylor Winder. Don't forget, their links are in the description below. If you happen to be one of the few people on the planet not subbed to these 2 gentlemen, please go sub them up. They are both on their road to 1,000. And, guys, check out the sponsor at the end of the video. And until next time, keep it casual. Attention all, use channel sponsor Rogue Trader at theroguetraderutah.com and my code Keep It Casual for 10% off your comic cleaning and pressing needs. Remember, when submitting your books to be graded, use a trusted professional.